All right, welcome back, everyone, to Complete Aviation Solutions Deep Dive number 34. Today we are going to take a look at a developing story, and this is something that you had sent my way, and I got to say, I was fascinated by it. It really digs into a pretty significant potential financial maneuver in the aviation world.
Absolutely. And, anytime we see these types of stories emerge, it's a chance to kind of look under the hood and see what's driving these decisions.
Yeah, exactly. And, to kind of set the table for our listeners today, we're talking about a potential investment from Saudi Arabia, and specifically the Public Investment Fund, or the PIF as we'll call it. They're looking at possibly investing $100 million US into AirAsia.
That's right. $100 million, that's not chump change, right?
No.
And this is actually part of a larger effort by AirAsia. They're trying to raise, get this, about 1 billion Malaysian ringgit, which translates to roughly 226 million US dollars.
Wow, so this potential investment from Saudi Arabia could actually cover almost half of that total fundraising goal. I mean, that's pretty significant.
It really is. It's 44% to be exact. And it kind of makes you wonder, right, what's AirAsia's situation that they need this kind of cash infusion? And on the flip side, what's Saudi Arabia's angle here? Why are they so interested in this low-cost carrier?
Yeah, there's got to be something bigger at play here, right? Some strategic moves on both sides, I would imagine.
I think so. It's definitely a situation with, potential implications, not just for these two players, but for the wider aviation industry.
Absolutely. So let's start with AirAsia. During the pandemic, they obviously faced some challenges, like pretty much every airline around the world. But it seems like there might be more to it than just sort of a pandemic hangover, right?
Yeah, you're spot on. It's not just about recovering from the pandemic. So AirAsia, their parent company is Capital A, and then they've got this long-haul affiliate, AirAsia X. All of them kind of experienced this slowdown during the pandemic. But, Asia as a region, their recovery in air travel has been a bit slower than other parts of the world.
Okay, so they're dealing with a slower bounce back in their primary markets. That's got to be tough. But didn't you mention something about a massive aircraft order? That couldn't be helping their financial situation either.
Yeah, so that's a huge piece of this puzzle. AirAsia, they have this really substantial order with Airbus for 356 A321neo family aircraft.
Okay, and for those who aren't, aviation nerds like us, the A321neo, those are like the hot new single-aisle planes everyone wants, right? They're fuel efficient, great for all the short to medium haul routes that are popular in Asia.
Exactly, they're like the workhorse of the skies right now.
Right.
But 356 of them, that's a bold move.
Yeah, it shows they're betting big on future growth, but also means some serious financial commitments, especially with all these new planes coming online. So this fundraising, it's not just about, patching up their balance sheet after the pandemic hit. It's about being ready to pay for all those shiny new Airbuses.
Right. It's about having the financial muscle to actually execute that growth plan. They need to be able to absorb those new planes and expand their operations. This fundraising is about enabling that.
So essentially, they're raising capital to fund their ambitious expansion plans. It's a long game they're playing.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the other side of this equation, Saudi Arabia and their interest in investing. You mentioned their Vision 2030 program.
Right. Vision 2030. This is Saudi Arabia's grand plan, their roadmap for diversifying their economy away from oil and becoming a global powerhouse in a bunch of sectors, including, you guessed it, aviation.
And they're not just dipping their toes in the water. They're making some serious waves. Through their Public Investment Fund, or PIF, they've already got a stake in a Saudi aircraft leasing company called Aviation. They're launching a brand new national airline, Riyadh Air, and get this, they even have a stake in London Heathrow Airport.
Wow, that's a serious portfolio. They're clearly committed to becoming major players in the aviation space. But starting a new airline, especially one with global ambitions like Riyadh Air, that has to be a huge undertaking.
Oh, absolutely. Think about all the logistical challenges, the regulatory hurdles, and of course, the biggest one, getting your hands on the planes.
Right. You can have all the money in the world, but with those crazy long lead times for new aircraft deliveries, you're going to be stuck at the gate.
Precisely. The aircraft manufacturing industry is facing all sorts of bottlenecks right now. Supply chain issues, labor shortages, you name it. And that means those wait times for new planes can stretch out for years.
So even though Saudi Arabia has placed orders for planes to support Riyadh Air's growth, those deliveries could be years away, potentially putting a serious damper on their plans for rapid expansion.
Now you're starting to see why AirAsia and their hefty Airbus order book might be looking pretty attractive to the Saudis right now. It's like a shortcut.
Okay, so this potential $100 million investment, it's not just about helping AirAsia financially. It's about potentially gaining access to those precious Airbus delivery slots. We're talking about a cash for planes deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's like jumping the queue. By potentially taking over some of AirAsia's slots, Saudi Arabia's airlines, especially Riyadh Air, could get their hands on those new planes much faster.
And this isn't just speculation. We've actually seen this strategy in action recently, haven't we? There was that separate deal where Riyadh Air took a portion of AirAsia's existing Airbus order.
Right, that was a smaller deal, but it shows they're willing to play this game. And it makes sense for both sides. Riyadh Air gets planes faster, and AirAsia gets some financial breathing room.
Exactly, a win-win. It seems like a smart way to navigate these crazy aircraft delivery timelines.
Absolutely. Now, it's worth noting that AirAsia isn't putting all their eggs in one basket with this potential Saudi investment. They're also reportedly talking to investors in Singapore and Japan.
So they're casting a wide net, looking for multiple sources of capital to really bolster their financial position. And didn't you mention something about a possible change in AirAsia's ownership structure as part of this whole fundraising push?
Yeah, there are reports that Capital A and some related entities might sell off up to 15% of AirAsia, so we could see some shifts in who controls the airline.
Wow, so there's a lot of moving pieces here. It's not just about money. It's about strategic partnerships and potentially reshaping the airline's ownership.
This is about positioning AirAsia for long-term success in a rapidly changing aviation landscape.
So stepping back for a second, for our listeners who are trying to make sense of all this, what are the big takeaways here? What does this story tell us about the state of the aviation industry today?
I think it really highlights just how interconnected the global aviation market is. What happens with one airline in one part of the world can have ripple effects across the industry. It's a reminder that this is a truly global game.
And for you, always keeping an eye on how different sectors are evolving, this story really emphasizes the growing influence of sovereign wealth funds like Saudi Arabia's PIF. They're not just passively investing for financial returns. They're using their capital to actively shape the future of entire industries, and aviation is a prime example.
That's a great point. They're playing a long game, using their financial firepower to achieve strategic objectives that go far beyond just making money.
Absolutely. And if this investment in AirAsia does go through, it could have some pretty significant implications. We could see further shifts in aircraft delivery timelines, potentially affecting other airlines' fleet plans, and it could also reshape the competitive landscape in Southeast Asia, where AirAsia is a major player, and in the Middle East with the rise of new carriers like Riyadh Air.
It's like a chain reaction. One move can set off a whole cascade of events that reshape the industry.
Exactly. So to sum it all up, this whole saga with AirAsia and the potential Saudi investment, it's a fascinating glimpse into how financial needs, ambitious growth plans, and strategic maneuvering for aircraft acquisition all come together. We've got AirAsia trying to restructure and secure its future, and we've got Saudi Arabia aggressively pursuing its Vision 2030 goals and aiming to become a major force in aviation.
And that cash for planes element, building on that earlier aircraft order transfer, it really highlights the creative solutions that airlines are exploring to overcome these supply chain constraints and get their hands on those much-needed aircraft.
It's a reminder that in aviation, it's not just about having the best planes or the most routes. It's about having the financial and strategic savvy to navigate a complex and constantly evolving global market.
What I find really intriguing about this whole situation is how it highlights the power of financial investment, not just as a source of capital, but as a way to unlock access to critical resources. Those aircraft delivery slots, they're like gold right now. And this deal shows how money can be used to essentially buy time to jump ahead in the queue and accelerate growth plans.
It's a whole new dimension to airline competition. It's not just about winning over passengers anymore. It's about strategically maneuvering for access to those limited manufacturing resources.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, what other creative partnerships and deal structures will we see emerge as airlines around the world grapple with these challenges? How will these financial and strategic alliances reshape the global aviation map in the years to come? It's definitely something worth keeping a close eye on.
It certainly is. And that's a wrap for Complete Aviation Solutions Deep Dive number 34. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Until then, safe travels.